Please make sure to keep yourselves on mute. This will be recorded and posted to the community. Um, and if you have any questions, please raise your hand, or you can put your questions or comments into the comment chat, and we will get to those at the end. If there are any questions that you have that go unanswered, then we can of course follow that up in a follow-up email. With that, I will hand this over to Sudipto.
Um, Thank you, Sarah. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our global community show. First of all, thank you for joining from all over the world. My name is Sudipto. I am a platform product leader here at Reltio. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing you to Reltio Business Critical Edition, or BCE for short. It's our premium offering designed for those who simply cannot afford downtime or data loss. I'll be taking you slide by slide through this topic, blending technical insights with real world context. So grab a cup of tea or coffee and then let's dive in, right? So, as a product leader with years of experience, I have seen how critical always on data is for businesses. And in this talk, I will explain why BC matters and how it works. We will also discuss some key concepts like what we mean by phone 9 SLAs, RPO, RTO, disaster recovery architecture, and also touch on features like AWS Private Link and Reltio Shield that enhance security. Don't worry, I'll break this down with simple analogies and perhaps a dash of humor. Hopefully, by the end, you will appreciate how BC keeps your business running even when catastrophe strikes. So let's get started. Uh, so now moving to the next slide, Sarah, we'll talk about the cost of not safeguarding your enterprise data. So on this slide, you see like a stark message, right? So failing to protect your data can cost you clearly, like downtime causes major financial losses due to service interruptions, customer churn. Think about it, if your services go offline, every minute means lost transactions and frustrated users. Like some studies put the average cost of downtime for large enterprises at up to $9,000 per minute. Yes, per minute I'm talking about, and that's over $500,000 an hour. And in industries like finance or e-commerce, it can even exceed 1 million per hour of outage. So imagine your e-commerce site going down on night of Diwali or Christmas shopping. It's like a nightmare, isn't it? And the lost revenue and damage to customer trust would be enormous. Moreover, data loss can mean lost customers, compliance violations, and disrupted operations. So if you lose critical data, you might never fully recover from those customer records or transactions. It's like losing the keys to your kingdom, and your teams can't be productive, your business grinds to a halt. Worse, data breaches or compliance violations bring hefty fines, customer churns, and permanent reputational damage. If I recall like a situation early in my career, when a data center outage left us scrambling for days, like we not only lost revenue but also spent heavily on emergency fixes and peer damage control. And trust me, these scenarios are costly and chaotic. Like in a nutshell, the value of resilience is huge, like avoiding downtime or data loss kind of, it's not only saves money but it keeps the customer confidence intact. You might say like investing in resilience is far cheaper than paying the price of failure. And this is exactly the problem Reltio Business Critical Edition is meant to solve. So no business, again, no business should have to tell its customers, sorry, we are down. BC is all about being proactive, ensuring that even if disaster strikes, your data and services remain available. imagine like it's like an insurance policy for your data-driven operations, but one that kind of actively works to prevent disaster from like impacting you. So now it's very important to understand that outages are usually aren't caused by trivial issues, like they often stem from significant region-wide events. So let's walk through few scenarios, examples, right? And some of this might no, Sarah, just remain on the slide. Yeah, and some of this might sound familiar also, like, and maybe you have personal experience, like for example natural disasters, right? They include earthquakes, floods, hurricanes, forces of nature that can knock out the data center operations, like for example an earthquake in a primary region where your data center is hosted. It can cause like major infrastructure damage, and which can lead to a complete shutdown of services. Then system failures, we are all aware of it, like sometimes technology itself can fail, like major hardware or software failures can disrupt the service continuity. Think of a like a critical server or network component frying itself. For instance, like a hardware failure in the primary data center, it can result in loss of connectivity for all your hosted services. So no hacker is involved, there is no hurricane. It is just a internal technology component failure. And if all your eggs are in one basket, right, which is like one region, and that's a single point of failure we are talking about. Then cyber attacks. Sadly, we live in an age of relentless cyber threats like ransomware, distributed denial of service attacks, which we call DDoS attacks, and in all other malicious activities that can compromise the data integrity and availability. Like a ransomware attack might encrypt your critical data and make it inaccessible or forcing an immediate failover to a clean mirror region. Then power outages, we are all familiar of it, right? Even it happened recently. We are talking about prolonged power loss that can outlast any backups that is available. Like data centers usually have generators, but what if like a severe storm knocks power out for more than a day, exceeding the generator fuel or capacity? For example, 24 plus hour regional power outage due to a storm can completely cripple a data center. And if your primary region goes dark and stays dark, you better have a secondary to flip on. So, like now, none of this is to scare you, right? That is not the intention, but to illustrate a point that stuff happens, right? Disaster happens, and we have to be prepared. It's like a old saying, like hope for the best, but plan for the worst. Like we wouldn't drive a car without a spare tire, right? Likewise, enterprises shouldn't run critical platforms without a backup strategy for these scenarios. And the good news is Rail to a Business Critical Edition is that spare tire, or you can rather call it the spare engine for your data platform. It is designed to handle exactly this kind of large scale outages. So how does BC ensures your business stays up during such disaster? Let's move to next slide, where we'll outline the key features of BC that delivers the resilience, right? So here we have the crux of what BC offers. Rail to a Business Critical Edition was built, right, on first principles to ensure business continuity even when the worst happens. So let me break down each promise that Rail2 is making on this slide. First is like cross-region redundancy with mirror tenant pairs. So in BCE, every critical tenant, which is your environment, is mirrored in a secondary region in another geographically separate cloud region. So essentially, what is happening is that you have a twin of your service running in parallel, constantly updated. So if the primary region fails, the secondary can take over. This is like having a backup data center or standby at all times. Um, you can think of it as having an office in maybe Mumbai and another in Bangalore. And if one of the city's office closes due to a local issue, the other can continue to work. So this cross-region setup is how we ensure business continuity even when an entire region faces an outage. It's a resilience at a whole new level beyond the usual multi-availability zone setup. Next, our promise is stringent failover with RTO less than 1 hour and RPO less than 1 minute. These acronyms are very critical, right? And we'll go over them again. RTO stands for Recovery Time Objective, and RPO stands for Recovery Point Objective, right? One is Recovery Time Objective, another is a Recovery Point Objective. In plain terms, RTO less than 1 hour means that we target less than 1 hour to fully recover services in the secondary region after declaring a disaster. And RPO less than 1 minute means almost no data loss. Like at most under 1 minute of data could be lost in a failover scenario. And these are extremely tight metrics, trust me. To give a perspective, right? Our standard platform typically has RPO of up to 24 hours, whereas BC's RPO is near zero. Essentially, with BCE, you lose virtually no data if a region goes down. Anything committed up to a minute before incident is safe. And you will be back online very quickly, which is the RTO within an hour. And this is completely a game changer for enterprises that run mission critical real time operations, right? It is like, again, the same analogy. It's like having a generator that kicks in within seconds of a power outage. The light will barely flicker, and we'll talk more about these terminologies, RPO, RTO, in the coming slides. But just to ensure like everybody here is clear on them. The next promise we make is Phone 9 uptime SLS, right? So we offer a premium service level agreement of Phone 9's uptime for BCE, and Phone 9's availability means at most, right? At most 52 minutes of downtime in an entire year. That's all. And this is a higher guarantee than our standard 395 SLS. So you may think that the difference might sound very small in percentage, right? But those extra 0.04 of uptime translates to significant reduction in allowed downtime. 395 allows for 4.5 hours per hour, 4.5 hours per year versus 52 minutes per year, which we get with Phone 9s. And achieving this level of reliability actually requires a very robust architecture and quick disaster recovery, which is exactly what BC provides. And in industries like banking or telecom, you may agree that every minute of uptime counts. So this SLA is actually a big deal. Then the private link, right? Which is the improved security and lower network cost. We include private link for BC customers. And what is that? In short, private link provides a secure private connection between your VPC, the virtual private cloud, and Reltio's cloud services. That is your Reltio tenant, bypassing the public internet. So instead of your data traveling over the open internet, they go through a private tunnel within the cloud provider network, and this greatly reduces exposure to cybersecurity threats, no chance for any internet bad actors to snoop, and also lowers the latency, your response latency. And added bonus is that it can reduce the data transfer cost. Internet egress can be very expensive, right? As you all know, but sending data via private link within AWS or other cloud providers is often cheaper, right? They charge a very small fee per GB, typically much less than the internet data cost. So you get a security win as well as you get a cost win. Essentially, we are giving you a direct, like a VIP lane to our platform instead of the public highway. And this is included as part of BC. Next is Reltio Shield, which is like the enhanced data privacy with the customer managed keys. So this is another feature that is included in BC. This allows you to generate and manage your own AES-256 encryption keys for your data on Reltio platform and to schedule keys rotations as needed. In simpler terms, you hold the keys to your kingdom. Even though your data is in the cloud, you control the encryption, and this is very crucial for organizations with stringent compliance requirements. For example, like some regulation and industry standards like PCI DSS in finance, like demand that you manage the encryption keys yourself. And with Reltio Shield, we satisfy that. Like the data at rest is encrypted with keys that you create and can rotate. It's like having your own safe within the bank vault. The bank guards the vault, but only you have the combination to yourself. And furthermore, Shield gives you the ability to rotate the keys regularly, like say when like 90 days, which limits exposure even if the keys were ever compromised. And all these measures strengthen the privacy and compliance posture. And we know like data privacy is paramount, so BC gives you that extra peace of mind. So in summary, like BC packs in cross region disaster recovery, near zero RPO, RTO, higher uptime SLA, and advanced security features like private link and shield, all in one offering, like a packaged offering. And it's designed for enterprises that cannot compromise, just cannot compromise on availability, data integrity, or security. As this slide says, right, it's all about ensuring business continuity with robust DR and enhanced security. And personally, like I often describe BCE as a resilience as a service. It's not just a bunch of add-ons, it's a holistic commitment we are making to keep you running come what may, right? So now before I go further, let's quickly kind of clarify some of the key technical terms we have been using so far, and just to ensure that we are all on same page. Next slide, please. So here you will see a glossary of terminologies like DR, RTO, RPO, and I will explain them in a very simple, straightforward way, right? So first is like disaster recovery, DR, right? This refers to the strategies and processes an organization uses to recover, like and maintain business operation after a uh, uh, disaster. Sir, previous slide, please. I think one slide got. Yeah, yeah, let's stay on that. So a disaster could be anything from data loss to system failure to a cyber attack, right? Which I was mentioning. So essentially, DR is all about the planning in advance, like how to restore your critical systems and data quickly, so that downtime and data loss are minimized. Think of it like as a uh, playbook for emergencies. So when something bad happens, you already know like what to do and how you can get back on your feet fast. Next is like the RTO, or the recovery time objective. This is the maximum acceptable downtime for your system after a failure. Okay, maximum acceptable downtime, right? So it's a target for how quickly you need to recover the normal operations. For example, an RTO of 1 hour means you aim to be up and running again within 60 minutes of an outage. And if you exceed that, the business starts hurting badly. So RTO is like asking how long can we afford to be down, right? When a disaster happen. And in BC, like our RTO is less than 1 hour, meaning like we plan to restore service in under an hour of a disaster, which is like super fast. Next is recovery point objective, which is RPO. This is the maximum acceptable amount of data loss measured in time. Maximum acceptable amount of data loss measured in time. So it answers how much data could we lose and still be okay. Like any data loss is bad, but here we are trying to say how much we can lose but still be okay. So if your RPO is 5 minutes, it means you could lose up to 5 minutes of data, like for example, transactional data in case of a disaster incident, but no more of that, right? Only you can lose up to 5 minutes of data if your RPO is 5 minutes. Everything older than 5 minutes is safely stored and persisted. In simple terms, if your last backup or replication point was at 10 o'clock and the disaster struck at 10 5 minutes, 10 like 10:05, with RPO of 5 minutes, you are okay. But if it is start at 10:07, you would have around 2 minutes of data not captured. And BC's RPO is less than 1 minute, means we aim to lose almost nothing because we are continuously replicating the data. So at most you lose under like 60 seconds of most recent data. That's the essentially near zero data loss, right? Which is like a outstanding achievement for any critical applications. Next is the primary region or the secondary region, right? So the primary region is your main data center or cloud region where your applications run and data lives, the data lives during normal operations. The secondary region, also called the DR, failover, or mirrored region, is a completely separate location that acts as a backup. So the secondary has mirrored data and can take it over once the primary fails. So in BC, what we do is that we maintain a live secondary with synced data. You can think of the primary as your home stadium and the secondary as an away stadium, ready to host the game if the home stadium is unavailable. Both are fully equipped. The secondary just waits on the sidelines until needed. And next is like the failover and failback. So failover is the process of switching operations from the primary to the secondary region when disaster hits. So it's what we do to keep services available with minimal interruption. In a failover, what happens is that the secondary becomes the new primary, taking all traffic and workload. Failback is reverse. Once the original primary is healthy again, returning operations back to that pr- primary location. So it involves syncing back any data changes and ensuring that primary is all fully up to date and then switching services back over. So you might fail over for a few hours or days and then fail back once the issue is resolved. And we manage that process very carefully so that it is seamless to our customers. So these are the key terminologies. With this in mind, I think it will be easier to understand the mechanics of what BC provides. And as you can see, the BC drastically tightens the RTO RPO compared to typical systems and automates the failover, failback between primary and secondary region. So if all these terms still feel abstract, imagine this, like your primary region is like your main office building. DR is the emergency plan if that building is inaccessible, maybe a fire drill plan. RTO is saying we need to be working again in a new office within X hours. and RPO is we can only afford to lose at most X minutes of paperwork or documents when we move. uh, Failover is actually moving everyone to the backup office, and failback is moving back once the main office is fixed. And Reltio BC is like handling the IT equivalent of all that smoothly and rapidly. So, great. Now that we have the terminology kind of explained, let's see how business critical edition actually stacks up against our standard Reltio platform. Next slide, please, Sarah. So this slide compares what you get in our regular Reltio platform, which is already a solid, highly resilient cloud platform, right? Versus enhanced business critical edition. And let me summarize the difference, right? The core platform provides high availability by distributing database nodes across at least 3 availability zones within one cloud region. And they are all active across zones. And that protects against availability zone level outages like a single data center issue. BC, on the other hand, gives you everything in the core platform plus true cross region disaster recovery. That means in BC, you have mirror tenant pairs across 2 regions for full regional redundancy. If an entire region goes down, BC has you completely covered. The core platform by itself doesn't include a second region. It's resilient within a region, but not across region. Next is the core platform is available on AWS, GCP, and Azure globally, right? BC is currently offered on AWS and GCP only. We started with the most in-demand environments for BC, but we are also actively working to extend BC to Azure. So stay tuned. If you have say an requirement today on Azure, let's talk, right? We can definitely prioritize the work. Now, on the data loss guarantee, right? In the core platform, the guaranteed recovery point objective is within 24 hours. In practice, that implies daily backups. So worst case, like you might lose up to a day's data. Extreme worst case here I'm talking about. If something catastrophic has happened. With BC, the same RPO is within 1 minute. Effectively, as I was saying, near zero data loss. And this is like a huge improvement from potentially 24 hours of data loss down to under 60 seconds. And it reflects the continuous replication approach that we do in BC versus daily backup in the standard platform. Then for the uptime SLA, the core platform comes with 395 uptime SLAs, which is like standard for many SaaS platforms. Whereas in BC, we offer 49 uptime SLAs, and we discussed that what it means, right? 49 is roughly around 1/10 downtime of 3 nines, like 52 minutes versus 4.5 hours yearly, right? 52 minutes versus 4.5 hours yearly. So this is the commitment we are making with BC. Then the recovery time guarantee or the RTO guarantee. So in core, RTO is within 24 hours for disaster recovery. Since no automated failure, you have to restore from backups, etc. In BCO, RTO is within 1 hour. This reflects that the automated failover capability I was talking about. We target having your services back in under an hour of declaring a disaster. So in other words, BCE can kind of recover 24 times faster than the standard approach in, again, worst case scenarios. Reltio Shield in core platform, Reltio Shield is an optional add-on. You have to purchase it separately. In BC, Shield is included by default as part of the package. So every BC customer automatically gets the ability to manage their own encryption keys and take advantage of that compliance feature at no extra cost. Same for private link. in core platform, private link connectivity is an optional add-on. And for those who want private network links in BC, it is included. So you don't have separately pay for it. The secure private connectivity comes built into the summary. So in summary, what does it mean, right? Business critical edition is essentially our core platform plus a bundle of enhanced capabilities like cross-region DEAR, near zero RPO, RTO, higher uptime guarantee, security features like Shield and Private Link, all included. It is tailored for no downtime, no data loss requirements. Like the trade-off is that today it is offered only on AWS and GCP as a premium service, but we don't have it available yet now in Azure, but we are actively working on it. And like for many businesses, like where the cost of downtime or a breach far exceeds the cost of this kind of solution, like this is a great solution to have. Like if I have to put it in a business term, like if your downtime is costing you even 100K per hour, investing in a solution that can prevent 4 hours of downtime a year is like immediately worth it. Like not to avoiding potential compliance fines or customer churn from incidents, right? One of our early adopter customer called BC, like quote unquote, their business lifesaver because it paid for itself, right, when some regional hiccup happened, and the secondary just took over seamlessly, preventing any outage. And that's the kind of assurance we aim to provide. So now let's talk a bit about how it all works under the hood. Next slide, please. When a disaster actually happens, right? What is our resilience architecture and what is our DR switch process, right? So first, it is essentially a play-by-play execution that we have planned, right? So first, a call for DR is made. This means we have identified a disaster situation in the primary region, and the decision is taken is to initiate failover. In practice, this could be an automated trigger, like example, primary region is unresponsive, um, or a manual call by our ops team after assessing a major disaster incident. Uh, you can think of it like a decision to switch to backup systems, right? Then we have two parallel streams of work, right? One is the data plane actions. The secondary regions database storages are switched from standby to active read write mode. In normal times, the secondary region is like uh, continuously receiving replicated data from primary in read only sync mode. At failover, we pause replication since the primary might be stale or down and essentially promote the secondary to the new primary. Now the secondary's data store is live and it is started accepting the writes. This ensures that the data is like immediately available and can start taking new transactions in the secondary region. Then what we do is that we scale up the services in the secondary region and open it for business. Like concretely, Reltio's application services that were on like a warm standby in the secondary region are now, you can say, like scaled to the full capacity. And also the network routing is updated. The network admission is set to on in secondary, meaning like we start routing user request to that secondary region. So if you have users or API traffic, we switch the endpoints so that they now hit the secondary environments. Uh, and essentially all the microservices and APIs begin running from the secondary region, completely taking over from the failed primary. Once these steps are done, your tenant is now currently starts running from the secondary region. The failover activity is complete. We are within our RTO target, which is under 1 hour, which often like much faster depending on the scenario. And the RPO less than 1 minute is maintained because of that continuous replication up until the failover, right? We at most can like lose 1 minute of data, which has not been replicated yet, right? At the extreme condition. And all these orchestrated steps are like the promise we make, right? We have effectively designed the system so that the switching the entire cloud region is very smooth and coordinated operation. Like, like if I have to give a like a everyday analogy, right? Consider the power cuts we experience. Many of us has UPS inverters or backup generators at home. When the main power grid fails, the inverter kicks in automatically, right? And the lights will flicker for a second and they stay on. And that's exactly what BC does for your business. It is that inverter for your cloud service. You can say like it is bridging the gap until the main power, which is the primary region, is restored. So, and you hardly realize that power went out, right? Because the backup took over seamlessly. Now, uh, you can question that how do we decide to trigger the DR? So we have a well-defined criteria and monitoring system in place, and it is not taken lightly at all because flipping regions is a significant event. Though we have solved it, we have simplified it, but from an event point of view, it is still significant. So typically, if a whole region is down or its services are significantly impaired with like no quick resolution, we will initiate that failover. And we have a business continuity policy which has formalized this process. So and everything is documented as a run book and policies so that everyone in our organization, from our support team to core engineering, knows what to do when a disaster strikes. And we test this process regularly. In fact, every BC customers are entitled to perform this drill, like a one failover test per year to verify everything works right. And I will discuss more on that in later slides. So next slide, please. So it's kind of a picture representation of before BC and after BC. You can just see like what I was talking about. So now, like with failover covered, this slide simply references the formal disaster recovery protocol I was mentioning earlier, right? It shows like we have an official policy in place, and indeed, this is well tested. The drills are done so to test our preparedness. And I don't want to dwell on this slide. We have a well document which we can share for if you are interested to know more about it. Just so that you know that we operate with a very clear plan which aligns with the industry best practices and the compliance requirements. So when you use BC, you are not just getting the technology, you are getting our proven processes and the people readiness behind the scene. So this is very critical. It is not a technology, the processes and the people behind the scenes, everybody is well coordinated and ready to handle this kind of uh, um, disaster scenario. And the business continuity policy documentation actually underscores that the rigorous protocol which I was talking about, right? So important clarification here so that we are understand like what is a disaster incident, what qualifies for that. it's for important for us to understand that not every incident triggers a disaster recovery failover. We only like engage this or activate this for true disasters, right? So next slide, please. Here, like I'll give some examples, like what are the incidents that actually do not qualify as a disaster, right? Because it is worth noting that many issues can occur, right? That actually don't require flipping to the secondary region, and we don't invoke the big red DR switch for minor hiccups. So like for example, like minor service interruptions, like they are temporary small scale issues which we can resolve within the primary region fairly quickly. For instance, maybe a single microservice is momentarily down, or there is a brief network glitch. Uh, like a temporary network issue might cause a brief disruption, very minor brief disruption, and we can fix it like within like few minutes within the primary region itself. So in this case, there is no need to failover because downtime was minimal and localized, and we will handle it as a standard incident. Then like for example, schedule maintenance, right? Sometimes we intentionally bring services down for upgrades or patches, usually off hours. We send these are planned outages and not disasters, and it is done in a very controlled way with lot of communications to our customers. And like for example, we might schedule a database upgrade that requires like a very short downtime on a weekend, and this is expected and is managed. So we will not fill over to another region. It is just a simple maintenance activity that is done in the primary region. Then performance degradation, there are system times like the system might slow down or have reduced performance, and it is not completely down. So for example, high traffic could make response time sluggish momentarily, but everything still works, although slowly. So we will not declare this as a disaster incident. Like instead, we'll mitigate by scaling up resources or tuning the system in the primary region. And since the service is still running and it's not a full outage, failover is not something that is warranted. Then network latency issues, like if there is a increased latency in network communication, say between the consumer and the provider, the core functionality is still intact, so it's not a disaster. Like maybe there is a routing issue causing some latency between these regions, which is like causing very minor delays, but the system is still serving the request. We'll troubleshoot and resolve that without switching regions. So why I'm talking about this is that the key idea is that we reserve DR failover for true major incidents where the primary region is like significantly impaired for an extended period. Failing over when not necessary could introduce its own risks or complications. So we have to be carefully assess the situation. And the good news is that even for non-disaster incidents, the BC architecture still helps. For example, our multi-AZ setup handles many minor issues automatically, and our support teams are up on it 24/7 to fix things very quickly. But it is good for customers to know that not every blip actually means we hit the DR button. Uh, Finally, next slide, please. We come to the commonly asked question. I am sure you may have lot of questions swelling in your mind about BC. Here I have listed few frequently asked questions that we have been receiving from our prospects, and I will address each very briefly, right? So what support does Reltio provide during a disaster recovery event if I am not BC? So during a DR event, Reltio team is by your side the whole time. We maintain open communication with you, providing updates, support throughout the incident. You won't be left guessing what's happening. We'll have people reaching out proactively after failover. Once the dust settles, we also manage the failback process, switching back to the primary region when it is ready, carefully, to ensure, like, it has to be done very carefully to ensure data integrity and the system performance part, and we'll guide you through that so it is seamless for your customers. Additionally, we strongly recommend BC customers to enroll in our Concert Success Plan. That plan gives you a dedicated point of contact, essentially a named customer success manager who is closely familiar with your BC setup and can make decisions very fast during an incident. It's like having a very specific guardian angel for your account, which can be invaluable in a crisis. So, in a short, like, you get full support, communication, technical help, and a managed recovery. Next question, like, can a customer switch between BC and non-BC after initial subscription? You can upgrade to BC after you have started on the regular platform. Certainly, many do as their business needs for higher resilience grow. However, once you are on BC, you cannot downgrade back to non-BC in the future. We do this to maintain the consistency and quality of service. BC involves setting up a mirrored architecture and other changes that require significant investment and are not trivial exercises. So we advise our customers to make the BC decision as a long-term commitment to high availability. uh, uh, it's kind of a one-way upgrade path, which most customers, we have been talking, and we already have many BC customers, they don't mind, because once they have that phone line uptime and that extra safety, they just don't want to give it up. Is BC available outside of AWS US? Like, what if customer wants BC, but their data is in another region or cloud, like Azure or European region? So we have initially launched it on the interest, right? Because as I said, it requires significant infra investment, and we have recognized the demand to extend BC to Azure regions, and we are actively working on it. Please inform your account manager or relative representative about your interest, and we can prioritize accordingly, right? Um, Interim solutions might be possible, but we can give you a timeline. Please note, like, expanding this kind of services has compliance and infrastructure considerations, but we are ready to talk if you are as your customer and looking for it. But for all AWS and GCP, it is currently available. So another, like, interesting questions we have received is like, what if, like, an existing customer, your existing customer, I have already purchased add-on private link separately, and then I now want to move to BC, and you are saying private link is packaged under BC, so I'm going to pay double for that? No worries, we'll handle that fairly. If a customer or you have already been paying for private link as an add-on, then and you are upgrading to BC, we'll adjust that pricing accordingly. Essentially, we'll switch them to the BC pricing and remove the private link cost they have already paid, so they don't want to be double charged. Same thing for Shield also. And see, we want the transition to the BC to be smooth, right? And there will be no financial penalties for being an early adopter for private link or Shield. So you will end up just paying for the BC price going forward. how I will know if I am on BC, right? So once your BC infrastructure setup is complete, we'll send a confirmation email to you. This email outlines the details of all the BC configuration, including information like what was the secondary region, what are the connection details. It is essentially a welcome to BC package kit. Additionally, within the Reltio console or portal, you will have indications of what is your service there. So there are clear communications, and we want you to be confident that yes, my tenant is now mirrored and protected under BC. Say BC is all about trust, and trust is key, right? And like, how can I test the effectiveness of BC setup? This is a great question. Like, after all, you don't want to just take our word for it. You want to verify that if the failover works, disaster events doesn't give pre-notice, right? So you want to check our preparedness. So as a BC customers, you are allowed for one failover test per year. This is going to be a coordinated exercise where effectively, um, what we'll do is that like simulate a disaster event, and we'll trigger a failover to the secondary region in a very controlled way, and it requires some advance notice so that we can plan the test and ensure that all the people folks are in place, and the communication and everything is set up, and we'll work very closely with you. We'll monitor and validate that everything fails over and fails back correctly. It's like just like a fire drill, and we'll prove that system works, so that in case of a real emergency, everybody is confident and prepared. And after the test is done, we'll share the results and any recommendations that we want to do, right? So it is an annual test, and it's included as part of your BC package, because we strongly believe like it's not just trusting but verifying um, the resilience setup. So there may be more questions, but these are the most frequent questions we have got. So I thought like I will clear things up. If you have other questions, feel free to drop them in the chat comments, right? Or follow up with us after this session. So I think we are about the time. I just want to wrap up. I want to leave you with the key takeaway of this session, right? Reltio business critical is like is all about resilience, reliability, and most importantly, as a business owner, it is peace of mind, right? In today's world, we all know data services, these are lifeblood of business, and BC ensures that lifeblood keeps flowing no matter what, whether it's a natural disaster, cyber attack, catastrophe of any forms. BC is your safety net that keeps the customers you happy. It protects your revenue. It safeguards your reputation. And by choosing BC, you are actually effectively saying downtime is not an option for my business. You are investing in continuity. It's like having a top-notch policy, like a dedicated rapid response team with a state-of-art security system for your data, all in one. And our job in Reltio side is to make sure you can sleep sound at night, knowing your critical data platform is always available and secure. And as I say in many of my communications with prospects, like it's not a product, it's a commitment we are making from Reltio, a commitment that your business can run uninterrupted and your data stays safe. We are in this together. When you succeed in serving your customer without disruption, we also succeed. So with that, thank you so much for listening, and I hope this community talk gave you both insight and confidence in what Reltio Business Critical Edition offers. Thank you, and have a great day ahead.
Thanks to Dipto, and just keep an eye out. We will have another show in the middle of July. I know that's a little kind of far from now, but With holidays coming up, we just giving ourselves a little bit of time since we know people take vacations around this time every year. But we hope we'll see you at the next session and have a great rest of your week, everybody.